Hello, I'm Bailey Coleman, and I'm a senior at the Parker High School. And my project is called Welcome Home. Okay, so all about me. My family consists of Jason and Leah, who are my parents. My sister is a sophomore at Parker High School, and her name's Taylor. Jake is an eighth grader, and Ty is a first grader. Some activities that I am involved in. I am involved in the band, the choir, the chamber choir. I am a reporter for the FFA. I am in 4-H. I've done PLC in the past. I'm a part of NHS, VBS, youth group at the Parker First Baptist Church. I have been a wrestling cheerleader for 2 years, and once in a while throughout the year, I am a children's church teacher. Hobbies that I enjoy doing. I love to sing, shopping, cooking is really relaxing, and so is drawing, and spending time with friends and family is the best part of any day. Future plans: after I graduate from Parker, I plan on going to Stewart School of Beauty for cosmetology and then back for massage therapy. So my project, I chose to build a farmhouse table for my senior project with a matching bench. And my mentors that I asked were Adam and Cassie Lucas. Cassie is the secretary at the Parker First Baptist Church. She's a stay-at-home mom, and she loves chickens, so she's a hoarder of chickens. And her husband, Adam, is the floor lead tech of Sue Steele, and they both together share a daughter who's 7.5 and goes to the first grade, and her name is Lydia, and she goes to Lennox. My advisor is Miss Laura Eichold. She's a second grade teacher at Parker. She's a graduate of USD. She has a degree for bachelor's in elementary education and her master's at technology for education and training. This is her 11th year teaching, and she serves on the diaconate board at church for the Parker First Baptist and serves on the board for Hearts and Mind Preschool. Her husband is Nash Eicholt, and he is one of the workers at Hope Harbor, and they together share 3 beautiful daughters, Henley, Sienna, and Rowan. The process. So at the very beginning, when I found out that we needed to do a senior project, I called Adam and Cassie at the beginning of May and asked them, hey, would you like to be my mentor for my senior project? And I plan on building a farmhouse table. And I chose Adam and Cassie because they have built a lot of furniture in their home right now. And one of the furniture things that they have built was their farmhouse table. And so I knew that they would be a perfect fit because they knew exactly what to do and how to help me on my project. So after they agreed, we made a day in June on a Saturday that we were going to go to Sioux Falls to the Home Depot and pick out everything that we would need for my farmhouse table and matching bench. So we did that, and some of the processes that we took to build my table was, first, my mom needed to find plans that she wanted for her table because it's hers. And when we went to Home Depot, when we had the plans and everything, we needed to pick out the wood that we wanted for that fit into our budget, and the finishing touches such as the stain and the paint and the screws and the wood filler, everything that we would need to build this table. So we chose the kind of table that we wanted. My mom found some plans on Pinterest that she liked, and we used those plans to build this table. But through this process, you can't use somebody else's dimensions for your table because that is dimensions that fit into their house. And we have a different home, obviously, and we needed to completely build this whole table with our own dimensions, which means that we had to build this whole table from scratch. So the only thing that we did that was the same as the person that we used it from was the look that we were going for. So as we were building this table, after we cut all of the pieces of wood and labeled them, before we cut and labeled these pieces of wood, we went into our house and we took the dimensions of our dining table, our previous one, and then our dining room, so we could see, okay, what space do we need from the wall to the table with the chair in between so we can walk through. And that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. It definitely made the process more interesting. Just figuring out, okay, how do we make this table my own? And I knew for a fact that I wanted this table to be as long as it could be with still room to walk. And so literally this table, besides the way that it looked, was completely my own. So in this first photo, as you can tell, we have the table flipped over and the legs are screwed in. Everything's screwed in, and we have a tape measure right there because we're going to put a support beam, kind of as a footrest, but mostly for looks in between the two pieces of wood on either ends. And the second photo right here, I am building two pieces of wood that would give another kind of support, but mostly for looks in between those two legs. So I kind of took a table and then totally added different pieces of wood to make it my own table. All right, in this photo, this is the top of the table before we put anything together. So this is just the top all screwed in, and in that photo, I am filling it in with wood filler. So then it gives the look of a seamless look. In this photo, Adam and we have the table all screwed in together and all flipped over, and we're talking about, okay, what else do we want to add? Kind of just like the very first photo on the other slide, how do we want to make this table look? And so that was a lot of fun. I truly wanted to make this project my own, and this is our dining table. So how do I make this describe me, or how do I make this describe my family? So adding the support beam in between, Adam and Cassie both mentioned that gives a traditional look, which is perfect for our house. In this photo, my table is all done. And so for the top, we did espresso stain. So I really kind of wanted to give a warmth to this table. And our house I would describe as very warm, and we have a lot of stain throughout the house. And so by adding stain, it really ties in the whole house together. But on the bottom, I kind of wanted to give a bright pop to the room and to the table. And it gives a perfect traditional look as well as a farmhouse style, which is exactly what we were going for, and it's a perfect contrast. The top is it's inviting. The whole table is inviting, which is the whole point of having a table. So the process continued. I started with the table because that's what we're eating at. That's what's first. So that's what comes first. So I started with the table, and we did the top of the table first before we put on the legs. That way we knew how long the table was going to be. And then we moved on to the farmhouse bench. Now I wanted the bench to slide under the table because I wanted to make sure that if I needed to make room, that we could have room, and it gives a more comforting look to have a bench smaller than the table. And so we also had to fit the dimensions of our home to fit the table, and then the table dimensions to fit the bench. So the bench could slide underneath the table, just in case. It's really helpful if I need more space to clean up. And just as we did with the table, first we had to cut and label all the dimensions. We did the same process with the bench. So with the bench, it was just after you do something big, which was the biggest part was the table, then it was way easier to do the bench. So when we were going shopping for pieces of wood for the bench, as well as the table, the same width that we used for the table pieces was too small if we did two pieces of wood to fit the bench. So it'd be a really small bench. But if we took three pieces, it was too big. So it was really fun to coordinate two of the same sizes of wood with one small wood in between the two bigger sizes of wood. So it made a very comfortable bench, because you don't want to feel like you're sitting on a small bench, but you don't want to feel like you're sitting on too big of a bench. So again, it was, how do we make this table and this bench my own? So in this photo, that's what I'm talking about, is there's two of the same sizes of wood on the outside, and then the middle piece of wood is smaller. And so it gives a contrast to the table, because on the table, there's all the same sizes of wood, but on the bench, there's 2 different sizes of wood. So that is the top of the bench, which is the exact same because it has to match as the table. And on the left side for the first photo, I am sanding the bench down. Now, sanding took super, super long. I had to make sure that everything was sanded nicely and smoothly, and there was no splinters or anything that could catch on clothing because this is where you're sitting. You're sitting on wood, and I wanted to give a completely seamless look like it was made right out of a factory. So problems that I encountered. I ran into this a few times. There was not enough stain or paint, so I never built a table before, so I didn't really know how much stain I needed. So about like close to, maybe it was a quart. It was a quart of stain, and that really wasn't a whole lot, but thankfully Adam and Cassie had the exact same stain, but only in a little pint size, and so I was able to use theirs just to finish up the staining process, which was no problem. And then for paint, we ran, my mom, while I was working on my table, my mom was super nice, and she said that she would go to Home Depot and pick up another gallon of white paint, which was no problem. It was just kind of an inconvenience. And then not enough paint thinner. So as I was painting, Cassie said a good way to clean out my brushes was to use paint thinner. And so the same problem that I had was there wasn't enough paint thinner, so I had a quick run to Sioux Falls to get more. Another problem was we didn't have enough screws, so we kind of ran out of screws in the middle of doing our table, so it was just another quick run to Lennox at the Ace Hardware, and Adam and Cassie were very generous, and they paid for the screws, even though they didn't have to. And then about 20 minutes after that, we were able to come right back and finish up doing the top of the table. And then paint touch-ups, oh my gosh, it was so annoying. Every time I thought it was done painting, I would look and I realized that, no, I wasn't done painting. And I would find like another little piece of wood or another corner that wasn't painted. And so it felt like I was constantly painting over and over again, which I totally was. And so it was just, that was kind of discouraging, like when you think you're done and you're super excited to, see the end product of your table. And I also knew like this is white paint, so we're going to have to kind of make it thicker. So paint touch-ups were quite annoying. So learning stretch, math will forever be a learning stretch for me. And I knew that that was going to be the biggest part of my project. I was kind of hoping that we could use some dimensions of the plan to fit our home, but no, it doesn't work that way. So we built our table literally from scratch using dimensions of our home and wood that we had. So Adam is really smart in math, thankfully, because he was such a big help on getting the math portion down, and he didn't do it for me because he'd be like, all right, like measure this, now tell me what it is. But he was always there to think about it again. So I did it by myself, which is fun, but I don't know if I could do it by myself ever again. And wood. So I can go shopping for clothing or anything else, but wood is not really my forte. Trying to find wood and knowing how much it is or how, like, what kind of wood is and what's better that was a big struggle. So Adam and Cassie, since they were really skilled in building tables or furniture, they were a lot of help on figuring, okay, this would be good wood. And not enough stain or paint. So again, that was a learning stretch. How if I ever do more projects like this, which I would love to do, the more I do, then I'll be able to figure out, okay, this is approximately how much we're going to need. So just wishing or learning that, you might need more than actually you think you will, because it's better to have leftover. Getting the table loaded, that was kind of a learning stretch. I never really, who lifts tables all the time? Not me. So trying to figure out how to load the table was much easier than how to unload the table, because I did my project in Adam and Cassie's garage. So that's way easier. You can just open up the garage door. But when you unload a table and you have to fit it through 2 small house doors, That is a learning stretch even in itself, without the math and the wood and the stain. Research paper. My thesis statement was interior design is an ever-changing industry because as time goes on, styles change with different ideas and the way people live. My main points were rustic, industrial, and traditional. So, of course, depending on where you live, it depends on how your house is styled or is built. And so we live in the Midwest, and the common style is a rustic style. It's more, you could call it more comfortable, more homey. Um, so that was also super fun because I was building something that wasn't like industrial in a farmhouse. No, it was like this farmhouse table goes into a farmhouse because we live in the Midwest, and so you coordinate your house of where you live. So that was also a lot of fun because I was more comfortable with the style of which I was doing because this is where we live and the way our home is decorated. So the finished project, it was about $200 and 13 hours. That's just, I didn't do 13 hours like in a whole week. It took about a month, and it was like coming back and forth doing it whenever I had time to do it. So it was like a very relaxed project, and approximately 115 miles going to Sioux Falls and coming back, of course, was most. And of the 115, and then we went to Lenox, and I had to go over to their house all the time, which they don't live too far, which was nice. And I want to say a big thank you to Adam and Cassie Lucas. Of course, like, you have a family, and they were still so generous in helping me, especially it was my first time, but we teamed up. We did it together. Thank you so much. Thank you to Laura Eichel. She did not have to take on the project of my research paper and correcting it because she also has a family and school to take care of, and so that was very nice of her. Thank you to Ms. Barnhart for helping me with our senior project. I know that's super stressful, and you did a wonderful job. Thanks to Mom and Dad, of course, for buying and supporting and helping me, but also just being there because that was more comforting to me than anything else to know that Mom and Dad were right behind me. Thank you to Taylor, Jake, and Ty, my lovely siblings, because unloading a table is kind of stressful, especially when you build. So thank you for supporting me and then helping me unload my table. And thank you, judges, for taking the time out of your night and day to watch me present. Thank you.